All right, you did the countdown. But we are back with another episode number 3 of the Lead Up Leadership Podcast with a friend, a peer mentor, someone that I've got to know the last 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, none other than my good friend Fernando Cancino. What's up, bro?
Hey, what's up? How's it going?
It's good. How you doing?
Good, pretty good.
Yeah.
Can't complain. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
For sure, man. And we are live in a study room at Sac State.
At Sacramento State.
We actually had to kick out some people.
We don't even go here.
Yeah, we don't even go here no more. Well, actually, I still go here.
Oh, that's
yeah,
right. That's
right. Doing my master's. But anyways, cool, man. So I just want to jump in a little bit for those that don't even know you. Could you share just about who you are, like your background, where you're from, and then maybe how you ended up to Sac State?
Oh, yes, of course. So my name is Fernando Cancino, and a little bit about myself. I was actually born in Zacapu, Michoacan.
Okay.
And in the country of Mexico. And so I was born there in that city, but I'm actually from a small little town in Mexico called Casas Viejas, Michoacan. And that's where I lived 3 years of my life. And then in 98, we moved to Baltimore, California. And so it was, I have 3 sisters, right? So it was me, my dad, my mom, and my 2 older sisters. My youngest sister wasn't born yet.
Mm-hmm.
She was born over here in the United States. And so I lived, I went to school in Watsonville all the way from elementary all the way to high school. And then eventually after high school, I applied to different universities, but I ended up being accepted to Sac State, Chico State, and San Jose State as well. But I decided to choose Sacramento State.
Nice. And looking back, I know this was a few years ago, right? You just graduated from Sac State, so that's super exciting.
Thank you.
What was it about college, or what was your knowledge about going to college, or your reasonings? Like, I'm guessing, I don't want to assume, but your parents didn't go to college.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my parents, like where we're from, there was a lot of opportunities for them to get schooling, right? Just a small little town. So I think they have my mom, her highest level of education is middle school, and my dad's highest level of education is high school. So my dad actually learned how to speak English over here in the United States. He was going to night classes while he was still working. So he would always tell me that he would get home from work and then he would go to night classes to learn English. So that was their highest level of education. But ever since I was a kid, I always remember they would always tell me, you need to go to school. School's really important. So they were always big on education.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we grew up in my household, and seeing my 2 older sisters, they went to college. My older sister, Maribel, she went to community college and she became a medical assistant. And then Lorena, she came actually here to Sacramento State as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an 11-age difference between me and my next sibling.
Yeah.
So I was younger, right? So ever since I was younger, I would always see her, like, she had her Sac State sweater.
Mm-hmm.
So being around that environment and seeing that my siblings were able to accomplish that, it just gave me that motivation, like, oh, they did it, why can't I do it?
Right.
I can do it too.
Right. That's cool. I didn't know she went to Sac State.
Yeah, she graduated, I want to say 2009.
Is that the one that has her own salon?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Lorena,
Yeah, and she actually got an award, right, recently or something like that? Or recognized? Her salon?
Oh, yeah, her salon, she won best place to get your hair done.
Yeah.
For 5 years in a row now. So
dang.
I'm happy for her. She's put in a lot of work for that.
Yeah, and we're gonna circle back because now in a way you're kind of or at least you've been cutting hair.
Yes.
And you're going to barber school right now, but we're gonna touch on that a little bit later. I do want to go back to Sac State, right? Because something happened. I think it was in your second year, I believe.
Yes,
right?
my sophomore year.
So talk to me about when you got to Sac State, and then what happened, because that's how we kind of got introduced when you came back.
Yeah.
So I know I'm jumping ahead now, but so tell me what happened your sophomore year and from there, from that point.
So I moved to Sac State my freshman year. Straight out of high school, I was 17. I remember my dad and my sister had to sign my apartment because I couldn't even sign a lease. And I was here my freshman year and my sophomore year as well. So sophomore year, I had a lot of things going on. Um, how to explain it? With mental health, right? It was my spring semester of my sophomore year, and so I would bottle in a lot of things, a lot of emotions. So during that time, my grandma was diagnosed with cancer, and I didn't know how to deal with it. Other things that were going on, I didn't know how to deal with it, and I kept everything so bottled in until I eventually, my mental health wasn't where I wasn't healthy mentally.
Yeah.
To the point where I had to get help. So it was around, like I said, my spring semester of my sophomore year. I realized that I was depressed, that I had anxiety. So I had to speak up and share with my family, my parents, my sister, my cousins, like, hey, I need help. Like, I'm not mentally all there.
Yeah.
And eventually I ended up moving back home, back to community college, Cabrillo College. And
Was that hard to do?
yeah, that was really hard. It was when I first brought it up. My parents and my mom were like, I mean, my dad and my mom, they were telling me to stay here at Sacramento State, but I mean, I was never on academic probation or anything. I was always in good standing, so it wasn't that I was getting kicked out. It was I was putting my mental health first, and so that was a difficult conversation to have. And but I knew deep down inside that I was gonna be okay, but I just needed to take care of my mental health first and then continue. So I eventually moved back to Cabrillo College, and I was there for 2 years, and that's when I decided to come back to Sac State.
Gotcha. And talk to me about what you learned when you went back home, whether it was from school or just about yourself, because it's not easy. And that's why I asked you, was it hard? Because, there's a lot of pressure. Me going to UC Davis, I came to a point, I think it was like close to like my fourth year, right? And something happened to me where, well, basically I just put too much on my plate, right? So in a similar sense, right?
Yes.
Like I was in school, taking a full-time load. I was working part-time. I was part of like a student club. And then I was also in a relationship, right? Which took up a lot of time. And I just kept telling myself, I can handle this, I can handle this, I can handle this. And then the way I prioritized certain things wasn't the best, right? So same thing, right? Just try to hold it in, not really, even in the relationship that I was in, like telling that person, like, this is what I'm going through, this is how I'm feeling, like, I need space. I didn't know how to, like, express myself or communicate that until, like, just because, like, man, I just got to put school off. And in a result, right, I bombed a lot of my classes, a lot of, like, definitely requirement classes, which led then to a conversation with an advisor who was like, all right, you have two options. You can either stay in school by switching your major, or you can leave for a quarter and then reapply to get back in. Now I was basically left with a decision of like, dang, do I leave and kind of like try to explain this back to my family? And because they don't really understand, right? They know only so much of like how's school going and basic things like that. But I was like, I can't go back home. And personally, me, I could not go back home and tell my mom like I'm gonna take a break. And also, I was like, if I take a break now, I might not want to come back. So I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna have to live with the consequences of like my bad decisions and change my major. And thankfully for me, it worked out because I started doing a lot better in terms of my classes. I felt a sense of confidence in myself, self-esteem, right? And kind of just putting things off of like, all right, school is actually number one. Not just saying that anymore, but really it's like, all right, I'm dedicating to study. And then, stepping down from a leadership position in my student club, but still being involved, but just to a lesser degree. Even with my relationship, like cutting that time out, which was a lot. And then working part-time, right? So basically going back to what I was saying, right? So what did you learn from your experience going back to community college, whether it was about school or about yourself?
So when I went back to community college, it was I was still enrolled. I was still enrolled full time. I was taking classes here and there. I was still in the groove of school, so I never really left school. and I was working as well part time. So while I was doing that, I was going to therapy as well. I would go. I would meet once a week with my therapist, and we would talk. So going to therapy, that really helped me out. Like get out of that hole in the sense of being depressed and having anxiety. So during those 2 years, I learned a lot about myself. It was just a different experience. I had never experienced that before, but the outcome of it, I grew as a person. I feel like those 2 years, I matured so much more that I'm gonna go back. But like I said, everything happens for a reason. Maybe I don't know. I came back to Sacramento State, right? And when I was here, like after I transferred my second time here, I was on top of everything, just so hungry just to finish that degree and accomplish what I had originally moved out over here for.
Right. And so, fast forward, you come back. What were some of your goals? Because I think at the time when I met you, I think you were, I forget what restaurant, but you were cooking or you're trying to be a chef at the time.
Yeah.
And then you see where I'm going now, right?
Yeah.
So you started off like cooking. I knew you was the chef.
Yeah.
And then somewhere down the line, you started cutting hair. So talk to me about like where the chef and the cooking, because you were pretty good at that, right? And you really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And then you switched like that.
Yeah.
At least to me, when it came to the cutting hair.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that.
Definitely. So I was working at the Blueprint restaurant. I think it's closed now, but I was working there with one of my good friends, Andy. And while working there, right, my mom taught me how to cook, right? And it was just like basic stuff, but at the restaurant, that's where my skills they grew. So I was like, damn, this is, I enjoy it. It's fun for me. So I was debating whether to go to culinary school after, because I enjoyed it so much. But during that time, when I first met you, my sister Lorena, she gave me a pair of clippers for my birthday, and I always owned a pair of clippers, but I had lost my other pair, so I never really bought a new pair until she gave me one.
That was when you were younger, right?
Yeah. I believe my first haircut was I was in middle school. I cut one of my cousins, and I convinced them to let me cut his hair. That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
So he wanted a mohawk, and I ended up giving him. I don't know what I ended up giving him.
And you didn't know how to do a mohawk.
No.
Yeah.
I had no experience cutting hair,
right.
But I somehow convinced him to let me cut his hair.
Yeah. How'd it turn out?
It was horrible. It was horrible. And I remember I told him after the haircut, I told him like, hey, we both went to the same middle school in Watson with Cesar Chavez, and I told him like, hey. Just don't tell anyone that I cut your hair. I'm gonna get roasted. You're gonna get roasted. But it was just a funny experience. Yeah. That was funny. That was my first haircut, right? And so I always had clippers around me, but I just never thought about that. Thought about that. Like I can make a career out of this. I can make a business out of this. I was just focused like in the university system, right? And so I always had clippers with me. And fast forward to Sacramento State when I was working at the restaurant. Like I said, my sister gave me a pair of clippers, and I started cutting up my own hair again. I started cutting my own hair, and then they started coming out pretty good. Started practicing more, and then I started cutting my cousin Sergio's hair, and I would just practice on him until I remember a haircut. I was like, oh damn, it looks pretty nice. And then I started cutting other people's hair, and then eventually I became obsessed with it. I became obsessed with wanting to learn more. I would be in class and I'd be looking up YouTube videos how to fade out a line, how to do this, how to do that, until I realized that it's just what I like. It's like to me it's fun. To me, cutting hair is fun, and I just so my last semester here, I started looking up barber schools. Just I had that little itch, so I was like, I'm gonna Google how much it costs to go to barber school, right? Out of Google, until eventually I decided to take a tour to the current school that I'm enrolled in, and I just signed up. I went for it, but that was the switch that I made.
Yeah. And that's where you're at right now, right?
Yeah. I'm currently enrolled at
Yeah.
Federico Beauty Institute. I'm
Yeah.
2 months into the barber program.
How's it been the last 2 months?
It's been a different experience. So I've been working, and in the afternoon, I go to barber school Tuesday through Friday. I go in the afternoon from 5:30 to 8:30, and then Saturdays I'm there for 8 hours. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely been a different experience.
Yeah. And I know recently too that you so the Barberos School, am I saying it right?
Yeah, Barberos and Company.
So that's that. So talk to me about that, because I know your ultimate goal is to have your own barbershop, right? Or
Yes.
talk to me about Barberos and Company,
Yes.
and like what do you hope to do like in the future, some of your goals, and where you see yourself, because barber school is about what, 2 years, a year and a half?
A year and a half. So
Yeah.
hopefully I'll be done by December 2020.
Okay.
Eventually, my goal is to once I graduate from barber school, open up my own barbershop, right? And yeah, that's a goal I have in mind. So ever since I was a kid, I always knew I was going to be a business owner. I remember the first time that I was introduced to the concept of business was it was elementary school, 5th grade, for science camp. Right? They would make us um, sell candies. I remember it was like a box of 32 candies, and the school would buy them for like $11 at Costco. So we would go out there and sell these candy bars for $1 a piece. So that's I I think that moment I knew that it was fun to me. It was fun to me going to different houses and trying to sell them candy bars. I just enjoyed it. And I remember my dad would be, because I think we had to sell $200 worth to pay for the trip. And my dad was like, "Oh yeah, sell as many as you can, and then if not, I'll pay for the rest." But I remember I sold more than was that was needed for me. So to me that was fun, and so I I knew that I was going to be a business owner, but I just didn't know what. And and at first I thought I was going to be a restaurant. I mean, that's still a possibility. But to me, business it was fun. Like buying the box for $11 and then selling each candy bar, and then having $30 at the end of the day. So that was profit. That was the rest of it was profit. So to me that was fun. And so going back to your question, I think being a business owner, there's a lot of opportunities for growth as a person and then economically. So I think part of the reason that we moved from Michoacan to California was to be in a better standing economically. Like I said, it's just like where I come from is really not a lot of opportunities. So I think that's something else that keeps me hungry too, knowing where I come from and wanting to become a better person and being a business owner as well.
Yeah. What do you do right now to outside of like barber school? Because I know one way we still kind of connect back and forth is like we send each other a lot of videos, right? Like a lot of like learning videos, whether it's like Gary Vee or the Minority Mindset. You put me on them.
Yeah, Minority Mindset.
Why is that important for you to like just get educated and learn things?
Yeah, definitely. That's important for me because I feel, even though I already have my bachelor's degree, I feel like self-education is really important. Because we're still going to continue learning and growing. So that's something that I've been doing post Sac State. Excuse me. So I like to read books. I try to read a chapter a night. I mean,
it's hard, man.
Yeah, it's hard.
I won't tell your professor.
Yeah. It's hard keeping up with my reading, but right now I'm reading Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I've been reading that, and I also listen to podcasts. I've been listening to the Gary Vee podcast.
DOV.
Yeah, DOV. I've been listening to the Gary Vee podcast, and he just talks about just different ideas. Just chase whatever you want. Whatever makes you happy, do that, and I've been listening to that, and also Minority Mindset. So Minority Mindset is um, it's a Instagram page, YouTube channel for people improve their financial literacy skills, and I think that's very important because, like I said, coming from where I come from, sometimes we're not taught how to manage our money, or sometimes we're not taught um, how money works and how to be economically stable, right? So I think that's really important, and that's something that I've been working on myself because take it a few years back, I was horrible with my spending habits, right? Um, I would get a little bit of money and I would just spend it on things that I wouldn't even really need. So I think that's very important.
Yeah. Um, if you could go back in time, right? You're 24,
24.
24. If you go back in time to your freshman year in college, right? Knowing what you know now about your mental health
Yeah.
and money, what would you tell that 18-year-old Fernando?
Um, I would tell myself to so that's the thing. I don't think I would want to change anything because it was a learning process. So I had to go what I had to go through to get to where I am now. So I mean, it's okay to make those mistakes. It's okay to to experience different things because that's what growth is. You know, learning experiences. But if you connect the dots backwards, you're like, oh, okay, maybe I shouldn't have done this. But that's the whole beauty of this, just learning experiences, and that's if I wouldn't have made those mistakes in the past, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. So I don't think I would change anything. I just accept what happened and continue learning.
Yeah. What are some of your goals for this next year and the next few years? What would you like to be in like the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years,
Yeah.
I definitely see myself having my own barbershop in the next 5 years. Like I said, finishing up my barber's license, it's pretty high up on my priority list. So I take that very serious. And I just see myself like growing even more as a person. I feel like there's always room for improvement, no matter what it is. There's always room for improvement. So keep on, keep on learning, keep on listening to podcasts, keep on reading books, and just becoming a better person. The best version of myself. So that's where I see myself in the next 5 years.
Dope. Well, thank you again, man, for taking some time to be on the podcast. I'm excited to see your growth and your development over time, and just appreciate your friendship, man. So
yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Excited for as you go through barber school and the next 2 years. Hopefully, you will be done in December 2020.
Yeah, hopefully.
And celebrate.
Yeah.
But awesome, man. So thank you again.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you guys for tuning in to the Lead Up Leadership Podcast. We'll see you next time.